I'm Erin Lawler Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted. There's so many layers when it comes to history. History for us within our families, history when it comes to whether it be where we're from, our country, place of birth, to on a global scale. And I think one of the greatest gifts that we can kind of hold on to as human beings, as well as pass on to our kids, is that of history. One of which being history not repeating itself, and when hatred and propaganda and all these things kind of come into play, and sometimes it can be convenient, if not easy, just in the craziness of life and chaos and obligations that we have, kind of losing track of things that have happened. And one of those things is the Holocaust, which is something we do hear about. It's something that's in part of our textbooks and our presentations, and we see on television. But as time goes on, and less and less survivors of an atrocity that should never have happened are walking the face of this earth, it's something that there are those who might say it never existed, which seems absurd and ludicrous. But there's always that component that's existing. And when we keep these memories, these voices, these faces alive, I think it brings a fullness in terms of the respect of life, gratitude for life, as well as realizing the power of knowing what ignorance is, knowing what propaganda is, and learning from our mistakes. And I had the privilege of spending, I'm going to say, 4 weeks in Brasov, Romania. And during that time, I had the intentions of a number of different topics to hit on. And I can be honest with you, one of which was not talking about the Holocaust. As somebody of Jewish descent, I'm very aware of the Holocaust. And in my mind, I'm going to give you a true confession. Romania wasn't a country that kind of red flagged for being affected by the Holocaust, which seems insane and absurd now that I think about it. But as I kind of wandered and perused the narrow streets of Brasov that I instantaneously became in love with, I stumbled upon the local synagogue. And as I walked up, and it was just before closing time, which was a bummer, but I was there a whole month, so I rolled with it. The synagogue was closed, but I made my way towards the side of the temple, and they had this memorial there. And on the memorial was written every single person that originated from Brasov that lost their life, that were Jews. And amongst, above and beyond Jews were those with disabilities, those who didn't fit in ethnically, so many things, gypsies, and the names just went on. And I began to think, how hatred, anti-Semitism, ignorance, people being unaware of, every name. It's not just a name. Every name is somebody's great grandparent, or could have been their cousin, that was kind of, their life was cut short because of hatred. And it weighed heavy in my heart, and I kept thinking, like, I am supposed to make a connection with this place above and beyond just kind of walking around. And so I had the privilege and opportunity of connecting with the president of the Jewish Community Center, who, when I tell you, man, as soon as I kind of was in his presence, was just at peace, at ease. The man was as patient as it comes, because I had a whole bunch of questions. There was a language barrier. I'm in Romania. I should be, speaking a little bit of Romanian. He didn't speak any English, so I was very grateful to have an interpreter. And we spent about an hour together, and just getting to know this gentleman, Valer Plugaru, was just was an experience, and one that I'm very grateful for. But he shared, how Romania, how Brasov was affected, how evil shook Romania, but how eventually, peace, compassion, and love persevered, and just taking the time to listen is something that I was very honored to do. And I hope today's episode, this is something that, if you feel privy to, just pass on to somebody else. I really, really strongly believe in letting our kids know, our loved ones know, reminding ourselves when we need to about the past, how people have been affected by atrocities, not just the Holocaust. This is just one example that have a domino effect. Our actions have a domino effect. And, as we're kind of approaching a new season, fall is just around the corner, a new school year, talking about what's happened in the past, talking about what we can do to change things in a beautiful way through being assertive, through standing up against things that we don't think are right. And obviously it's not to the magnitude of the Holocaust, but every single ripple makes a difference, and instilling that in our kids, fighting for what's right, speaking up when you're internally just not comfortable with what's going on. And I think that is a gift that is beyond words and beyond any kind of value that you can place on it. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, my chat with Valer Plugaru, who I just say blessings and thank you and shalom. Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to ask a few questions, and we'll just go from there. So, I have the president of the Jewish Community Center in Brasov with me today.
Yes, I'm president from Brasov community.
Okay, and I want to say thank you for taking the time to sit. Thank you. And I wanted to speak with you because I know in Brasov and in Romania as a whole, many Jews were affected by the Holocaust.
Din România mare, în Holocaust, au dispărut 385.000 de persoane.
Recording equipment didn't really gel very well when it came to interviewing Valer, along with sitting behind us was the interpreter. So I'm kind of going to relay this to you. I need you to think about this a little bit. Prior to the Holocaust, there were approximately 750,000 Jews that resided in Romania. Preceding the Holocaust, it's estimated about 350,000 Jews lost their life during the Holocaust. To me, that's insane. Romania was only second in terms of loss and devastation to Germany. At the time, the anti-Semitic leaders were voicing to the people that in order for Romania to be strong, in order for Romania not to lose its footing, the Jews were kind of were toxic. They were kind of unnecessary. They were undermining all things positive, and this was fed, and this was fed, and this was said, and this was said, and with time, 350,000 Jews lost their lives. And to me, it's heart-wrenching, it's heartbreaking, the manner in which in the stories that were relayed, both in textbooks and you hear on movies and, I'm talking to Valerie, sharing these stories, how other humans ended alive and tortured and hurt and other human beings. And it was solely through hatred, ignorance, and propaganda. And it's just, to me, it's heart-wrenching and it's mind-boggling. Here's a question. A saying in the United States is history repeats itself. How do we prevent history?
În orice caz, a uita ceea ce istoria a produs, cel puțin în perioada Holocaustului și a celui de-al doilea război mondial, cu gândirea de a împiedica ca ele să mai poată să se producă.
They never repeat. I know there are people who deny that it has happened, which is ignorance.
A nega a nega Holocaustul este a nega războiul.
Denying Holocaust means deny the war.
Războiul a existat. Păi nu
Oh,
ce-am
they didn't have rights.
Eu spune ce spun eu.
Da, da, da,
Don't
da, ok.
get right.
Dar că poate că
Wow.
Yes.
Unele meserii, doctorii, avocații, farmaciștii, ziariștii, cadrele medicale,
Some occupation could not be executed by Jews,
contabili,
like medicine, pharmacy.
nu aveau voie să fie angajați. Evreii nu aveau voie să iasă seara din locuințe.
Don't have the right to walk in the evening.
How long did that continue for?
Cât a durat perioada?
Nu aveau voie
Cât a durat perioada?
Perioada asta a durat din anul 1942 până în 1944, când au intrat trupele rusești.
1942 until 1944.
Când au intrat trupele rusești în țară.
Okay.
Russian come, just in some.
Okay. You said that ended in 1944.
In 20 or 23 August 1944.
94. But after that, was there still hostility towards
După asta au
Jews?
mai fost ostilități față de evrei.
Ostilități față de evrei în mod foarte clar și direct, schimbându-se regimul social, nu au fost, dar niște epurări au existat.
Thinking about not being able to walk down the street without being identified as being different, not having access to medicine. You might need prescription drugs, being treated differently, intentionally, makes my heart ache due to somebody's religion, somebody's ethnicity, the color of their skin. And having the privilege to sit down at the synagogue, the Jewish Community Center, and really kind of delve into a history that should never and can never be forgotten. Not only in the sense of history repeating itself, but knowing what evil is capable of doing, and with evil propaganda and things getting in people's heads that have the ability not only to alter somebody's life, but to end lives and to have a domino effect that is forever. And, you know, kind of on the heels of this, how powerful the other end of the spectrum of kindness, how compassion, how empathy is something we need to relay and remind ourselves and relay to our kids. And I think when we become a generation of people who are kind and use our hearts and I think look at people's hearts rather than their skin color, their ethnicity, their religion, it makes us stronger. I think it makes us better judge of character. And it gives us the ability to, in so many ways, change the world in some beautiful ways. And I do think there's power in teaching our young people to talk with those from other generations, from different cultures, if they have that ability and they have access to that. But I think too often we get so caught up in life, so caught up in what we think is important, and sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But we lose out on the people around us who hold so much history, who have seen things that we can't really wrap our heads around. And we could say, well, I read this or I heard about this in a discussion or on a show or, you know, radio segment. But when we, so often we might have living history right around us and we don't even realize it, whether that be grandparents, whether that be people within our temple, our church, within our community. And just simply sitting down and having a cup of coffee, hot chocolate, lemonade, whatever it is, or just asking, you know, about different aspects of history that we could benefit from being more aware of. And I think when we ask questions as adults and our kids have the ability to kind of tune in and hear that, we dialogue about it, it allows them to realize, you know what, man, it's significant. And not all of our kids are going to pick up on that. But I think with time,
it shows how much weight is in it. There's weight in knowing and learning from other people. And my heart aches when it's like you kind of get to a certain age and you look around and those people that you could have learned from aren't here anymore. To me, that's heartbreaking. And you think about the Holocaust and how few people are, that are still walking this earth. There's not that many of them. Talking with people who are in Vietnam, World War II, were present when civil rights, women getting the ability to vote. Like, ask questions, learn from each other, and it makes us stronger and makes us appreciate our lives, our freedoms that sometimes, quite often, we can take for granted, and we shouldn't. And I'll tell you, in the past 2 months, just being in Eastern Europe and realizing things that I was already aware of and things that I wasn't in terms of the freedoms, and the freedoms I have due to things of the past that I am profoundly grateful for, and things we way too easily take for granted. So when we learn from our past, we look at the present, and we take time to stop, pause, and ask questions, amazing things can happen. So I hope you got a lot out of today's segment. Feel free to pass on to somebody else. And I just wish you an abundance of peace, love, and goodness, my friends.
If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.